This week on the I Remember Liking That Movie podcast.
Like, it sounded familiar when we first said the title, and then when I saw the, pictures that went with it, I was like, "Wait a second, I have seen this," which I'm very excited about because I remember loving this movie.
14 critic reviews have this at 57% on Rotten Tomatoes. 5,000 audience rating giving it 65%, so a little higher. If loving Joyce Heiser is wrong, I don't want to be right. 6 out of 10. Not a great movie, but a very charming and likable one. 7 out of 10. Some of the bad ones, I thought it would be good. I was wrong. 4 out of 10. The most overplayed movie on cable. 1 out of 10.
Oh my god, fantastic. There were a
Yeah.
lot of things that annoyed me in this movie.
Yeah, there's a couple things that annoyed me in this movie too. My initial thoughts was not one montage in this entire movie. The fuck?
Because she needed to bend over the railing for a hot
Yeah.
second so everybody could get a good look at her very nice ass.
And I did
It was lovely.
write, yeah, I did appreciate it because the 26-year-old teenager had a great ass. And she kind of looked like a boy.
Ish.
Boyish, yeah.
I mean, I wasn't expecting stubble or anything. And you just stick your hand down his pants
As you do in the 80s.
and you pull out a sock. Then you're like, "It's okay. It's fi" I'm like, "Girl,
And you
have
wonder
some
why every
self-respect."
teenage boy in the 80s and 90s was disappointed when it didn't happen.
Lights, camera, and action. Welcome to the I Remember Liking That Movie podcast. Remember those childhood movies you loved? We're going to watch them again and find out if they're still as amazing as you remember. Let's get ready to join Anna and Jimmy as they go back and watch those movies you remember being oh so awesomely good. Horror movies that scared. Comedy movies that dared. And action movies so preposterously ludicrous that they defied the laws of common sense. Now, here's your hosts, Anna Santos and Jimmy Coates.
Okay, so now we are going back because we have been here before to 1985
Mhm.
with some of the best movies ever. But Back to the Future, Beverly Hills Cop, Rambo First Blood Part 2, Rocky 4, Cocoon, Witness, and The Goonies were 7 of the movies
Those
in
are all
1985.
fantastic.
1985 was a good year.
It was a very good
And
year.
yeah, it was also. Did I not bring it up? I did. Just One of the Guys.
Mm.
Now, have you seen this?
Yes, and I didn't realize I had seen it. Like, it sounded familiar when we first said the title, and then when I saw the, pictures that went with it, I was like, "Wait a second, I have seen this," which I'm very excited about because I remember loving this movie.
Let's go to the box office. So, Just One of the Guys on a $5 million budget opened at number 2 with $3 million and just over $300,000. It would close at 11 million, 11 over $11.5 million. So it
Not bad.
actually did okay. And
Yeah,
then when you have video rentals and sales and stuff, which wasn't, it was there in 1985, but it wasn't as predominant as like the 90s. But
no.
there's still money to be made. So it did okay.
Well, during the '80s, it would definitely be more licensing for TV or
Yes.
airing on TV.
And one of the things I did find out was this was played a lot on HBO, a lot on some movie channels, like a lot. So
Yeah.
and it could have been one of those ones where it was thrown in with something, but
Mhm.
it looks like it was at least profitable for the company that
They're
made it.
probably still getting royalties from it.
All right, so so that means now we can get into Just One of the Guys, and that means Tale of the Tape. All right. So Just One of the Guys is a 1985 comedy film rated PG-13 and comes in at an hour and 40 minutes.
Mhm.
So there is some story to this movie.
You gotta give time for the hijinks.
And I, for some reason, thought this movie was rated R. I thought for sure there were boobs.
That's what the PG-13 is.
I hope so.
Boobies.
Taglines. Terry Griffith is about to go where no woman has gone before.
Eh.
This is a long one. She's 18, she's great looking, and now Terry Griffith is about to set off an epidemic of comic hysteria when she enrolls in a new high school as just one of the guys.
That's terrible.
These are some from other countries. If you translate it in German, it translates to she had to become a boy to be recognized as a girl.
Interesting. Okay.
In Sweden, translates to the slightest mistake would mean she was snubbed. What the fuck
I
is
mean,
that?
it makes sense.
Oh, stupid Swedes. Synopsis. When Terry Griffith, Joyce Heiser, loses her high school's writing competition, she's convinced that it's because she's a girl. So Terry decides to change high schools and pose as a boy to prove her point. Her brother, Buddy, Billy Jacoby, helps her pass as a guy so well that she is soon making friends with the boys at school, including the attractive Rick, Clayton Ronner, who
Mm,
becomes her new best friend. But her gender swapping makes things difficult when she falls in love with him.
well, of course.
And now, if we go to, let's take a look at the posters. That one that we looked at the beginning. This is
Mhm.
the DVD, and this was not has never been a huge popular movie, but I do remember this cover more than this one.
Yeah.
Now, this was the closest I could get to a movie poster. I mean, there's nothing on the internet. I don't know if it was
Mhm.
lost, but it's funny for those listening. There's a locker room. There's two guys with towels on. One's blow drying his hair. One's reaching for something. She's turned around in the middle with two football helmets covering her breasts. So cool. I do like the poster,
No, the poster is great.
which brings us to ratings. 14 critic reviews have this at 57% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's fine, like in line for a comedy
Yeah.
like this in the 80s. 5,000, again, not an overly popular movie. Audience rating giving it 65%, so a little higher. Again, pretty normal. Some of the fresh ones were Just One of the Guys is worth repeated viewing, especially for Heiser's hilarious and charismatic performance. Another one, Just One of the Guys is a charming and wild 1980s teen comedy anchored by Joyce Heiser's charismatic and unexpectedly committed performance. A sassy, funny beginning for the summer film season. An exceedingly erratic yet mostly agreeable comedy. Here's some rotten ones. Joyce Heiser, affecting a lower register, a short haircut, and a subtle swagger, is not totally convincing as a boy because she's too pretty and too chic.
I'd just like to point out that I've met many a boy who were too pretty and too chic.
Yeah, well, I'm not trying to be mean or anything. Even even back when we were kids, there were boys that were very pretty.
Especially in the 80s.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, like, cisgendered heterosexual men who could do a, like, cat-winged eyeliner better than most women or anybody who's put on makeup. Like, the 80s was the time to be too pretty and too chic, no matter what your gender was.
Now you got to also remember that in 1985, these critics were probably teens and stuff in their 60s. And I looked at a
Mhm.
lot of pictures in the 70s, and every teen in the 70s looks like they're 40 fucking years old.
True
they,
story.
they all
True
have the
story.
mustaches and the
Mustaches, long hair, and for some reason, skincare and SPF was not a thing,
no.
so
So I kind of see their point at
yeah.
a year, 1985. But yeah, the film is a bit too fashion conscious to make a very strong point about appearances not meaning anything. Go to IMDb, 17,000 users have this at 6.5.
Okay.
with basically the plus being just think of this as Legally Brunette, 9 out of 10. Who Said the Beautiful Girls Are Not Smart Enough, 7 out of 10. If Loving Joyce Heiser is wrong, I Don't Want to Be Right, 6 out of 10. Great B comedy for from the 80s, sex romp vibes, but with heart, 7 out of 10. Not, oops, not a great movie, but a very charming and likable one, 7 out of 10. Some of the bad ones, I thought it would be good. I was wrong, 4 out of 10. It was the 80s. That is all I can say, 4 out of 10. Just one of the 80s ignorant movies. I thought that was clever on the play on the title of the movie. 3 out
Yeah.
of 10. A slice of 80s life, but not a laugh riot. 5 out of 10. The most overplayed movie on cable. 1 out of 10.
Oh my god.
Uh,
Fantastic.
so now let us watch the trailer. Do. There we go. It's not a long trailer, so let's take a look.
Who wanted to be taken seriously,
I am going to be a reporter.
but her body kept getting in the way.
Pretty girl, you could be a model.
Sometimes I just wish I were a guy.
No, you don't. The male body needs sex at all times. It's a living hell.
So to prove to the men in her life she had a mind, Terry decided to try life as a guy.
How do I look?
Dashing.
My zipper's open.
That was the dashing part.
What a fox. Dresses like Elvis Costello. Looks like the Karate Kid. I'm gonna get him.
Today's woman has the freedom to be just as sick and perverted as us guys.
She learned their secrets.
I have surprise jock inspections 3 times a week. A word to the wise.
And dated their women.
Yeah, but I got this one rule. I never go out with girls who say bitchin'.
Now the question is,
What's going on?
Wait, it gets better.
can a girl tell the boy she loves
Terry's such a stallion. Go on, show me your hairy chest.
she's not the man he thinks she is?
Wait a minute, are those what I think they are?
Yep, it's one of a kind. My bro.
Just one of the guys.
Just confused.
Of course you're confused. You're wearing my underwear.
Go ahead, show them your hairy chest. Brother looks familiar, very
Yes.
familiar. The guy she falls in love with looks very familiar.
The brother. Oh, Parker
The-
Lewis Can't Lose.
I love that show
I
when I
think
was a
that's
kid.
I think that was what I remember him from. Oh, he was also in Cujo.
The brother?
Yeah.
Oh, I think he was the kid at the beginning.
You learn
that
something new every day.
um
That's who he is.
who? The brother or the guy she
No,
falls in love with?
the guy that she falls in love with. I was like, he looks so familiar. And then
Clayton Ronner.
I just saw a more recent photo of him and I was like, oh, he usually plays someone really creepy, like the creepy older guy on like TV shows. You know, the one that like is the professor that hits on his students.
Well, William Zabka's in it. He wasn't in the preview. Who played Johnny Lawrence in Karate Kid.
Mm-hmm.
Cheryl Finn is the girl that falls in love with.
Yes.
Which
She's
she's been in tons of stuff. And
Yes.
yeah, I think I have a crush on Joyce Heiser and Cheryl Flynn.
Yes.
Has she done
Valid.
anything else?
She was on
Oh, she's done other thing else. Oh, she's been in a few things.
she's been in a lot of things. She was on
She's been
Gilmore
in quite a
Girls
few
for a
shows,
little
yeah.
while. Twin Peaks, which is what we all know her from, or at least I know her from. But she's done like a crap ton of movies and she's all over the place, man. She keeps showing up and you keep
Yeah.
seeing her face. And I happen to know her name, but she's one of those actresses that most people are like, "Oh, I know her." Friends. That's where a lot of people would know her from. She plays the woman that dated Joey, and she has a prosthetic leg, and then Joey throws that on the fire.
Oh,
And they're
okay.
cuddled up at a cabin, but then she dates Chandler, and then Chandler's totally fine with her having a prosthetic leg. Like it doesn't bother him at all, but she's creeped out because he has a nubbin,
The
and then
nubbin,
she
right.
like disappears.
That's her?
That's her.
Oh wow. No, look at
Yeah.
that. All
The
right,
bunny
it
eater.
looks really 80s.
Super 80s.
Which is
Super.
good. It's just, yeah, yeah.
It
What do
can
you
go
think?
either way.
Are you gonna like it or not like it?
I might like it just for the fashion. I'm gonna be real honest right now. I don't get me wrong. I think the brother's gonna be good comic relief because when I watched She's the Man reminded me of this movie.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh yeah, that's because I was like, I feel like I've already seen this movie." And then I remembered that they did one in the 80s where a girl pretends to be a guy and like
Yeah.
falls in love with one of her guy friends, whatever. Um, so I was like, "Oh, this seems really familiar," but I have a feeling it's a movie that's not going to age well, which makes me sad. But I'm hoping really like the fashion. It looks like I will from the trailer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it looks all right. It looks like it falls in that Better Off Dead, that type of comedy.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's better than Mannequin.
I really hope it's better than Mannequin.
And Weekend at Bernie's. Although it's that nostalgia thing we talked about. I was thinking about the Weekend at Bernie's the other day because I was cleaning up and I had the DVD and I'm like, I might watch that again.
There's I
Until I
think
start watching and go, I'm not gonna watch this. I'm gonna turn this off.
there are certain movies that you attach to like a time and a feeling.
Yeah, that's
So even
exactly.
if it's the shittiest movie in the world, you still love it deep in your heart.
Yeah,
Like you might not want to watch it again, but you will defend it to the death.
yeah. Stupid Weekend at Bernie's. No, I think this one looks all right. This looks like it'll be fun.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be okay. I don't think it'll be fantastic. I don't think I'm gonna recommend it to the world and be like, everybody needs to watch it right now. However, I mean, I'll I have a feeling it's gonna be if it's on TV, watch it. It's a good time.
Yeah. Okay, so we are going to watch just one of the guys.
Mhm.
You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook, I remember liking that movie podcast. Twitter at good bad I don't know. Actually, hold on, I have it here. Watch. It's exactly what it sounds like.
I love it.
There we go.
Good, bad, I don't know. That's what we should have named this podcast.
Yeah, good bad. I don't know.
Good, bad, I don't know. We're gonna watch it.
Yeah, we're gonna watch it regardless. Yeah. So that's it. We're done.
Fantastic.
You heard them. Movie time. Let's all go to the lobby and get ourselves a treat, and then watch a classic kick-ass movie from whenever the one we're about to watch was made.
Did it right? Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did.
Let's see if I fucking
You
did it
got
right.
this. I believe in you.
All right. So last we previewed just one of the guys.
Uh-huh.
We watched just one of the guys. Your initial thoughts?
Meh. Eh. There were a lot of things that annoyed me in this movie.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that annoyed me in this movie too. My initial thoughts was not one montage in this entire movie. The fuck. So just one of the guys. Yeah, yeah, we might as well just dive right
Let's
in.
dive right in because I'm so disappointed in this movie.
The plot that I got, the only plot I could find, and I'm not writing out an entire plot. Well, this one I almost had to because not a whole not a whole lot of in-depth plots on this movie, which makes sense. It's not an in-depth movie.
This movie barely had a plot.
Yeah, it was
Barely.
yeah. All right.
Although I will say this, how did you watch it? What streaming service?
I paid for it. I couldn't find it.
So it's on
Yes, I did see that.
so yeah, before the movie started, it had a little disclaimer and they were like, "Guys, there are homophobic. It's a movie in its original form.
Oh,
There,
okay.
yeah. So there was a little disclaimer that they put. They were like, there are homophobic terms and behaviors, like FYI."
Oh, yeah, no,
And
I
then
didn't get that.
they didn't edit the movie, and I was like, "I appreciate that," because 'cause they're like, "Some of this might make you uncomfortable. If this is the kind of thing that makes you uncomfortable, don't watch the movie," and I was like, "Right on.
I
Let's
wonder if
watch this
my I
movie."
wonder if mine was edited. It didn't seem bad.
There were some terms, like, they used the term
I think mannequin
trans
was more offensive.
oh, mannequin was definitely more offensive, but they used some terms that are definitely were definitely used in the '80s, but aren't now, like transvestite,
Oh, yeah, yeah, okay,
transsexual, like,
yeah.
things like that. So I was like, "Eh," and then there was some stuff where I was just like, this is interesting," but it wasn't, like, in your face offensive.
No, 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 it was definitely
Yeah,
although I was surprised at the PG rating.
there were a lot of titties. The titties were
Yeah,
pictures,
their pictures.
but there were a lot of titties.
Really, I have a suspicion of why I really like this back in the day.
I'm not even gonna lie to you, but the first scene where Buddy is like he has his trunk of Playboys out and
Yeah.
he's putting all the pictures. I was so distracted by one particular centerfold that was up because the amount of pubic hair she had, it looked like
Oh, yeah.
panties. And I
No, that was all bush.
was from like this was the norm at that point. Like it's becoming the norm again, but I'm like,
Mm.
I that's a lot of pubic hair, and I just kept staring at it. It was very distracting. I just thought I'd share that.
Alright, let's get into this movie.
Yes, let's.
Terry Griffith is an aspiring teenage journalist in Phoenix, Arizona. I thought it was California, but
Me
anyways,
too.
who feels that her teachers do not take her articles seriously because of her good looks. Okay, so that's the plot so far. So Terry is sleeping in bed in a white lacy top and a white lacy panties. The alarm goes off and she gets up and looks perfect.
Yes,
Walks over to her balcony and looks out over her gardens. Why? I don't
because
know.
she needed to bend over the railing for a hot
Yeah.
second so everybody could get a good look at her very nice ass.
And I did
It was
put I did
lovely.
write, yeah, I did appreciate it because the 26-year-old teenager had a great ass. I
Why
didn't
do
feel
they
bad
all look so old?
I didn't feel bad ogling any of these people in this movie because I think the youngest person was Buddy.
Yes,
He was actually 16 at the time when it was filmed, and what's her name? Fenn?
Sherilyn
Sherilyn Fenn was the next youngest actor at 19. All
you're
the rest were in their mid to late 20s.
you know what, that makes a lot of sense because you see Terry Griffith, and I was like, "Okay, she's cute, whatever, she looks kinda young." I'd give her, early 20s
Yeah,
in, like, real life. And then her boyfriend literally looked like he was, like, a
40?
35-year-old stockbroker, and I was like, "What?
Yeah, he's in college.
This makes me so uncomfortable."
I made a couple notes, but yeah, he's supposed to be in college, so that would put him in
Yeah,
his early 20s.
he did
Unless he's
not look
going for
it.
a doctor and which would make him 26
Who still lives at the frat house?
if he's done,
Mm.
unless he's, Chris Farley. Lots of people go to college for 7 years, and they're called doctors. Okay.
I know someone who went to college for 7 years and is not a doctor.
Yeah, you can almost see why though, how much fun it is. And I did make a note, if I'm being honest, when I was in high school, I thought that was how every girl got up in the morning and started their day. In white lacy panties, looking perfect, looking at their
A
window.
little dainty camisole.
Yeah, a bird goes on their finger or a
Yeah,
butterfly goes by, yeah.
and they sing to each other. Of course, of course.
She has some breakfast with her brother, and then it's off to her perfect 80s high school. What I remember from movies and TVs, it looked pretty authentic to me.
Mm.
Uh,
My brother and my sister were both in high school in the '80s, and unfortunately, they both went to schools that had uniforms, so nobody had a sense of style.
oh, yeah.
They were all wearing the exact same thing, but, I mean, the hairstyles and the accessories, on point.
Then her friend Denise is complaining about her dating options while Terry is planning her summer with her boyfriend and her part-time job at the Sun Tribune because she's confident she's going to be winning the school writing competition.
Mhm.
The teacher, see this, I had to add all this because this just jumps to 20 minutes into the movie, the plot. The teacher tells the class that the winners will be posted after lunch. Then they're in the malt shop. Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's a place where it's full of high school kids. It reminded me of what was that place on 90210?
The Peach Pit.
That's it, the Peach Pit.
Or if we're thinking Saved by the Bell, the Max.
Yeah, some sort of 80s, 90s high school hangout.
High school hangout, yeah.
Yeah. Then her brother comes by, hits on her friend Denise, talks about a sexual peak is almost over, makes some orgasm noises. Terry goes back to see her name on the contest winner's sheet, but her name isn't there. Then she hears the teachers coming, talking to another this part was kind of creepy. Not kind
It
of creepy.
was
It was
no,
creepy.
it was creepy. It was super gross. And then
They obviously added it for comical effect.
well, I
But
think they were
even
trying to
back
push
then,
no, they were trying to push the whole, like, sexism to validate that her article really was not chosen because she was a girl, I think. I
yeah,
think that was why they were like, "Put in something about the teacher looking at her legs, yeah, and talking about what she's wearing." I'm like, "It doesn't make a point," because we find out that that's not the point.
no, it wasn't
And
point
then
at
we
all.
lost the whole movie at that point. I was like,
Yeah,
"Well, what?"
yeah, because he doesn't. He says, "Hold on, I wrote it down." I say we fail her, so she's here another year.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
And
"You
then
get
his
yourself
only
fired."
he laughs. He's like, "Oh, that's a funnies."
Yeah, you do something like that, you can get fired. It's like,
Sir, that's a sexual
job
harassment.
sucks. Terry asks why she didn't win the teacher, and the teacher says basically her writing is great, her subject matter is boring.
Mhm.
And he also suggests she should try modeling.
Yes, because apparently you're pretty, be a
Yeah,
model.
yeah, be a model.
Like, it's so easy.
Yeah, because that's an easy thing to do. Then we get back into the actual plot. This jump from feels that her teacher did not take her article serious from her good looks and jumps to after failing to get her dream job at the newspaper intern, she comes to the conclusion that is because she is a girl. With her parents out of town on a 2-week Caribbean vacation, Terry decides to remedy the situation. She enrolls as a boy, Terry with a Y instead of an I, at a
Mhm.
rival high school, her real identity known only to her sex obsessed younger brother, Buddy, and her best friend, Denise. On her first day, she meets Rick Morehouse, a socially awkward transfer student whom she finds attractive. Trying to stay close to Rick, Terry helps him through an image makeover, encouraging him to start talking to girls. Okay, so we have to back up a bit
Yeah, no,
because
that
it misses quite
jumped.
a bit. Yeah. Terry's parents are gone, so her brother Buddy is redecorating his bedroom with the Playboy models. That was kind of
Mhm.
funny.
That was funny because it starts with, like, 3 and then eventually the wallpapered.
Yeah, the whole room is
The
just
whole room is just
wallpapered in
wallpapered
it.
with naked girls, or naked women, I should say.
We also meet her boyfriend, who is in college and looks like he graduated 10 years ago.
He's a middle-aged stockbroker. We can say it. We can say it. He's also, like, a super douchebag.
Yeah, I think he plays, I don't know if he was typecast back then because he did look very familiar, but he
Yeah.
had that look that, yeah, if you wanted that guy, that
He
douchey guy, he
he
probably got a
definitely
phone
looks
call.
like the frat brother that you can't leave your drink alone with.
Yeah.
Yeah, God bless. But yeah, no, he's, terrible also. Like, there was no chemistry at
No.
all,
No, because
and none of it made sense.
they get into an argument by the pool. Kevin
Yeah, and
refers to her writing as a hobby.
he's super handsy, and then
Yeah.
when she's like, "And he suggested I be a model," he's like, "Do you know how much money they make?" And I'm like, "Mm, wow, they just made you, like, overall terrible."
Yeah. So then later that night, the doorbell rings and Buddy answers it. It's Terry disguised as a boy asking for his sister. Buddy calls for a sister, not realizing it is his sister. And then they have the whole Buddy trying to teach her how to walk, stand, and of course, scratch her balls to be a man. That was funny.
It
Sort of. Like, it
was
wasn't like hysterical funny, but
yeah, It was amusing. It was very
Yes.
amusing because also you have that moment. It was so funny because she's like, "Well, what if my balls don't itch?" And he's like, "Everybody's
Yeah.
balls itch." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Actually,
It's a
valid.
fact.
It is a fact." Because I have yet to meet a man who can resist scratching his balls at least once
Yeah.
in my presence. I'm like, "How? How? What is do you need a cream?" Like, I don't understand. But it is a fact all balls itch.
Yeah. And then she goes to the school. She's cut her hair. She dresses kind of like a boy,
Definitely like a boy.
but a
Um
very I want to say like more on the hip side than your regular.
It was definitely not mainstream cool.
No.
It was not mainstream high school cool. Like, that's the fringe cool kid,
Yeah.
and I'm cool with it because it was a great ensemble.
And she kind of looked like a boy.
Ish.
Boyish, yeah.
I mean, I wasn't expecting stubble or anything, but
No. Um it probably would have been easier for it to do today than back in 1985.
well, here's the it was really hard for me to pay attention or to believe that Terry was a boy because there were so many, like, mannerisms that were exaggerated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was very distracting, and I'm like, "I know you're playing something." So I don't know how anybody really believed that Terry was a boy at this new high school.
No. No. Like if it was today, yeah, would have
Oh,
pulled it off easy. Back in
mm-mm.
85, yeah, but it would have been hard.
Well, I'm
But
like, "Come
for
on,
the
guys.
movie's sake.
This is a little." But there was that was, like, the way Terry, God bless Joyce, if this was your choice of the directors, I don't know which one, but the ambling walk, and I was like, "It's
Yeah.
a little much, my friend."
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a few other things that are coming up that I.
Yeah.
So we also meet Rick.
Mhm.
We meet some nerds, some more girls, popular girls, bullies. The
Mhm.
amazing William Zapka as Greg,
Mm.
and we first meet him while he's giving a junior a wedgie.
Yes. It's nice. It's a beautiful welcome.
Like because he's trying to show his friends proper lifting,
Yeah,
and then he throws Terry. Terry tries to join in the conversation, and he throws Terry into a prickly bush.
as you do.
Yeah, yeah, of course. After many episodes in and out of school, including fending off a group of bullies led by bodybuilder Greg Tolan, dealing with her real college boyfriend Kevin, and being set up on blind date with a potential new girlfriend named Sandy, Terry managed to be accepted as one of the guys. Also, the main reason all this is happening, Terry submits her article to the new school's writing department. The teacher says it's very good and shows a lot of promise, but he won't submit it to the Tribune, the Sun Tribune. And we find out the first teacher was right. Her article, while technically good, is just boring.
Yeah, there's no fire in it, there's no passion,
No. So it's
and
not a sexist thing.
it's not a
Um,
sexist thing, and that's really where the movie should have ended.
yeah. Yes, the
Because 'cause
teacher
I'm
was
like,
right.
the first part of this movie was pointless because you set up a premise that is no longer true. Why is Terry still pretending to be a boy?
So Terry decides to stay in the new school as a boy to write a new and exciting article. Why are nerds portrayed so over the top in the 80s? Like this was on the cusp of the mentally challenged.
I was gonna go more delusional mental illness
Yeah,
because
yeah, I'd buy that. Yeah.
it's a little excessive. I'm like, I understand nerds, but pretending to be aliens?
But this was way
This
there's
was and what was up with that cowlick?
yeah.
Like, it wasn't just a normal cowlick. I was like, "That who was working the hair department? Because
Yeah.
give the guy a cowlick, but not like that." Um, yeah, no, it was excessive, although I will say this, the guy who carried around, all of his little reptiles and amphibians, I enjoyed him.
Oh, yeah, he had all the reptiles.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
all of a sudden, there's a lizard
See,
snake coming out.
that character was okay. It was the other 2. Like, Revenge of the
No,
Nerds just came out a year earlier, and they
Yeah.
weren't even that nerdy.
No, no, they were not. Like, this was a did you see the little, like, protractor badges
Yeah, that was
they
in the
had?
shape of I was about to say
No,
Star
it
Wars,
was
Star Trek, but it was made out of a protractor.
it was an actual and I think they
Yeah.
had pencils in there too, from when you would make those little circles. I was like, "This is terrible.
Yeah,
Why would you
that's
do this to these guys?"
it's like the director was screaming, "More nerd, more! Make me
Nerdier!
nerdy." Yeah, nerdier.
Nerdier!
Also, the date with Sandy is a trick when Terry tries to get Rick a date for prom, which he fails at constantly talking to other women.
Mhm.
And Sandy says she'll set Rick up with her cousin if Terry goes on a date with her. Her cousin turns out to be 11, 12. She's going into 7th grade.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think I'm not even gonna lie to you, I think I blocked out most of that because I was just like, "What?"
Then Sandy sexually assaults Terry and finds a sock in her pants. That was kind of funny when she was like, I'm
Pulling out the
flattered.
sock was
Yeah.
funny,
Like,
but
how
that
small can
entire
it be?
well, this whole thing, I was like, "Wow, so Terry's drunk, you're manhandling her, and you just stick your hand down his pants,
As you do in the 80s.
and you pull out a sock." Then you're like, "It's okay. It's fi" I'm like, "Girl,
And you
have
wonder
some
why every
self-respect."
teenage boy in the 80s and 90s was disappointed when it didn't happen. She didn't force herself on me at all.
Yeah, she really set the standard for everybody to be disappointed.
At their okay, see, then it jumps at their senior prom, a jealous Greg picks a fight with Rick, who ultimately trounces the bully in front of the entire class. Okay, so let's back up again. This plot line skipped like half an hour here. Her getting out of gym class, starting the fire to set off the
Yep.
sprinklers, the stomach aches, the forgetting the gym clothes. While she was doing all this and other situations that called into her getting found out and really being a woman was so slapstick like, or her facial expressions were so animated. Like it was almost she was like it felt like she was about to break the fourth wall and wink at the audience. And that
Mhm.
I that kind of just it was kind of
A lot of her behaviors
like you said, the walk
yeah,
was so
or the talking, or the,
yeah,
like, hand gestures, or the just standing there, like, doing this whole thing, and I was,
yeah,
like, with the arms out, and I was like,
like, none of
"Look
the
at
other
the men
guys are
around you,
doing
none of
that.
them are doing that." So, like, that kinda stuff always took me out of it, and it almost felt like a caricature,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm like, "This is not you're supposed to be convincing people you're a guy. That doesn't convince anybody."
Like, it would have been more funny because, like, you're looking at her like this exact where she's like she's got the stomach pains, and
Yeah.
the gym teacher is like, "Okay, fine, whatever, go to thing," and then she gives this look like she just got away with it, but it was so like,
Everything's over the top.
yeah, but like a teacher would have saw that and went like, "What the fuck? You're faking."
Also, can we talk about her accent?
Yeah, that New Jersey-ish
Yeah, New Jersey, New
Italian
Yorkish.
mafia.
Yeah, I was like, "You're supposed to be from Phoenix, girl. What?"
Yeah,
Well, I thought California when I was watching this movie, but I was like, "Phoenix? Why do you sound like that?" Apparently, she was born in New York, so that would explain some things.
yeah.
But still, do your generic American, like, Midwest accent.
See, I think this movie would have been way better if she did do that, did try to act more realistic,
Mhm.
didn't try to have the over exaggerated facial, like she actually was trying to get away with it. I think I would have enjoyed it a little more.
Honestly, if the over the topness was kept to just the parts where she almost got caught,
Yeah,
I'd be down. And
yeah,
I'm like, that moment of panic, I don't mind that being over the top, but because it was over the top through the entire thing, I just kinda rolled my eyes a lot, to be honest.
yeah. She also hangs with Rick a bit, learns he likes James Brown. She's also juggling her boyfriend Kevin a lot, complains about everything to Denise, decides to give Rick a makeover, buying him new clothes. Yeah, I'm just trying to find the notes here because the plot line.
She bought him a couple new outfits
Yeah,
on her credit card.
And then the most popular girl who is dating Greg, the bully, takes
Yes.
notice of Rick, which prompts Greg to plaster spaghetti all over Rick's new clothes.
And then the girl's like, "Ugh, God,
Yeah.
Greg, you're such a jerk."
Yeah, because this is the first time Greg's been a dick.
Yeah, apparently this is the first time she's ever seen her boyfriend be the biggest bully in school.
Yeah. But this later prompts Rick to stand up to Greg by embarrassing him in the cafeteria.
That was a great scene.
That was a good scene. Yeah, that was
I
a
will
good scene.
that was a great scene.
Yeah. Then he gets the confidence to ask Deborah out because she's dumped Greg for being a bully. And I made a note. I guess she just figured that out.
Well, she didn't really dump Greg. She was just all like, "I'm tired of seeing you like be a jerk or be an asshole or whatever." And she walks away. And then he walks up. But the whole reason he asks her is because Terry says something like, "Anybody?" Because he's like, "Just pick one more girl out for me to ask to prom. Just one more." And she sees Deborah behind him and says, "Anybody?" Because she's figuring Deborah's Greg's girlfriend. She's going to say no. And then he's like, "Well, Deborah." Or she's like, "Well, Deborah." And so he turns around and asks her. And then he's very confused when she says yes.
Yeah.
She has to say it like twice.
Yeah. And what else? And this makes kind of upsets Terry, who seems to be falling for Rick. And we can't forget Sandy, who hasn't given up on trying to get Terry and brings Terry to kissing fish.
Yeah.
And she is in some lingerie, like she tries to seduce Terry, which I didn't find too creepy.
The lingerie wasn't that bad, and she kept her skirt on. So yay.
Yeah, and it was funny because when Sandy wanted to take the fish into Terry's room, so Terry takes her into Buddy's room that's plastered with the Playboy posters. That was actually pretty good.
That was actually, hey, she reads, Kim reads Vonnegut.
Yeah.
I was
And
like, yes.
what's her name doesn't like toxic waste. No, that was pretty good. Now remember, this is all happening in a time span of just over a week. It hasn't even, I don't even know if it hasn't been a week because prom hasn't hit yet.
Well, they had, I think it was like a week and a half before prom.
Yeah. So about a week.
So
'cause
yeah,
prom was coming up.
And he didn't talk to or she didn't talk to Sandy for the first like 5 days that they were at school. So I'm like,
yeah,
Sandy, I feel like you should be a little more discerning, my friend. Don't just give out your kissing fish to anybody.
And here's a fun fact. Rick and Deborah, who end up going to the prom together in this movie, they end up in another movie together, one we should definitely watch, April Fool's Day, a year later. They're in the same movie. Yeah, they're two of the cast.
Oh, fantastic.
I don't know if they're the boyfriend and girlfriend in April Fool's Day or they're opposite each other, but yeah, they're in the same movie, which is kind of
we will
funny.
find out.
I remember loving that movie. I remember loving this movie too, so
Yeah, no, we got issues, yo, because I remember loving April Fool's Day too.
yeah.
Now, whether or not that actually is true, or if we've just rebuilt the memories in our head, like apparently I did for this movie.
Yeah. Also, Terry convinces Denise to go to the prom as her date, and Denise actually says, like, it's really sad. You're the best date I've had in like weeks. Yeah.
That's
That was-
true.
Now, at their senior prom, a jealous Greg picks a fight with Rick, who ultimately trounces the bully in front of the entire class. Okay, not before Rick gets sucker punched and Terry attacks Greg. Then Buddy, who shows up with Kevin, attacks Greg for attacking his sister.
Yeah.
For those listening, Kevin shows up, the boyfriend, the 35-year-old boyfriend, shows up to talk to Terry, the 27-year-old, 18-year-old. And then threatens Buddy, who will only tell him if he gets to go and watch, which I thought was funny. That's a typical
It is a
teen
very
comedy.
typical, yeah.
He does it pretty good.
I hated Buddy through this entire movie. I'm
Oh,
like, you
did
did a
ya?
great job. Oh God, yeah. I
Oh,
want
yeah,
to
he was
the throat. He was a little
a
shit.
yeah, he was a total.
But I was like, you're
jerk.
doing your job right because I kind of hate you.
But he was like one of the really only funny
He was one of the only. This
characters
is
in
terrible
this
to
movie.
say. One of the funny characters, but also one of the best actors.
Yeah.
Like it's terrible to say, but there was like it was him.
Well, did you notice who the one nerd was?
I noticed both of them.
The
I
one there
recognized both of
was
their faces, and one of them I knew immediately was Ari Gross, and I was like, I know you from places.
Oh,
So I
he's
looked him up
been
and I was like, "I know your face. Thank you."
yeah, he's been in so
Yeah.
much.
And then the other one was Epstein from Mr. Cotter,
Yeah. Yeah.
who I loved watching Mr. Cotter. So I was like, "Yes."
And is it Sherry Lynn or Sherilyn Fenn?
Sherilyn Fenn.
She's done quite a bit.
Oh yeah. She's everywhere. And then there was someone else. Well, Clayton Roner, when I saw the character Rick, I was like, "I know your face.
Yes, yeah.
I know your face." And then
Yeah,
I
he's been in
started
a few
looking it
things
up.
too.
Yep. Mr. Raymaker, seen him in a million things. Mind you,
But
I watch a lot of 80s television. So,
but Buddy was in Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
yes.
Um, so
And
yeah. And
also
he
quite
was
a few
actually in
episodes of Murder, She Wrote.
yeah, he was in actually quite a few things in the 80s
Yeah. So
and
he
early
worked fairly
90s.
steadily, but he was honestly one of the few bright spots. Denise was another one.
Yeah.
Denise was a bright spot, but for the most part, the acting, like a lot of the secondary characters were so much better
Yeah,
than
because
the main
what's her
characters.
name? Joyce Heiser was fine as Terry the girl,
Yes.
but as Terry the guy, not so
But
much.
even as Terry the girl, there was almost, I don't want to say this, but almost like a vacancy to her. Like where
Yeah.
it just seemed like she was repeating lines. I was like, I don't feel like you're engaged in this. And it made me sad. I'm like, maybe you do that to differentiate between girl Terry and boy Terry, but all it came off as is I don't know how to act. And I know that's not true.
Yeah, because she's been in a couple things.
Yeah, she's had work. So I was like, you're not like super shitty. Why are you doing this in this movie?
When Terry's boyfriend shows up unexpectedly and discovers the ruse, Rick assumes that Terry's big secret was that she was gay. To prove otherwise, Terry opens her shirt and reveals her breast to Rick. See, when it threw me off, because I remembered there were titties in this movie, not just
Yeah,
fucking Playboy ones. And then the PG thing, I'm like, oh, I must be wrong. But I
yeah.
was not. There they were. Although she admits loving him, Rick rejects her, prompting a desperate Terry to kiss him in front of everyone.
Mm,
To placate the awestruck students, Rick announces that Terry has tits before leaving the prom and Terry behind. He said, yeah, don't worry, everyone. He's got tits.
yes. Which apparently is supposed to explain everything.
Yeah, I think that would just make everyone more confused.
Well, especially if that's all you're saying. It's like you
Yeah.
just saw two
And
guys
in
kiss and then don't
1985.
worry. Yeah, 1985 especially. This was not the time. It was a very, very homophobic, anti-LGBTQ plus era.
Heartbroken and humiliated, Terry retreats to her room and writes a long article on what it's like to be a girl in boys' clothing, detailing all of her experience, both good and bad. I did enjoy her writing. I
Mhm.
think all women should write in a pink, tight
Tank top.
tank top and lacy
Of
panties.
course. I know whenever I do my writing, that's exactly what I wear.
And when it shifted over to her that typewriter,
Yes.
that completely I was kind of just in the moment of the movie or whatever, but as soon as she was on that typewriter, it was like, whoa, that kind of like threw me off a bit.
Well,
It's
it's
a
funny because
big ass loud typewriter.
I used to share a room with my sister, and so she was in high school, I was in elementary school, and she used a typewriter, obviously, to type up her essays, and so she graduated from high school in '89. So, all through her high school career, there was a typewriter. Eventually, she got one of those fancy ones that was like a digital typewriter where you typed everything out first,
Ah, see, I
and then
had
it
one of
like
those.
yeah.
I didn't before I got a computer. I had one of those.
Yeah, she had one of those, we upgraded to that, and then by the time I was, I think, 13 or 14? No, actually, probably 12, because my brother was in university, and somehow he conned my parents into buying a computer. So I managed to have a computer in the house by the time I was like 12, 13, which was amazing. And I still own that computer desk. We don't own the
Oh, I thought you were
computer
gonna say the
anymore.
computer.
No, we don't own the computer anymore, but I do still have some floppy disks running around somewhere.
Terry returns to her own school. When her article is printed in the newspaper, she receives high praise and finally earns her dream job at the newspaper. Nevertheless, she still finds herself yearning for Rick, who has not spoken to her since prom. One day during the summer, Rick suddenly turns up after reading her article. Realizing their true feelings for each other, they reconcile and make plans for another date. They decide to go for a drive in Terry's car, but before Buddy can join them, Buddy was there too. An attractive blonde on a motorcycle rides up, beckons to him with a smile. Buddy then climbs onto the back of her motorcycle, and both couples happily drive away.
There's a lot of weird in this movie.
This scene made no sense. None.
None whatsoever.
Never mind, does Terry and Rick make it long term? Do they get married? Does she become a journalist? No. Do we ever see Buddy again? Does he end up on a milk cart?
He ends up on a milk carton, my friends. They don't understand where he went. They just know that he went off into the sunset on a motorcycle with
Yeah.
a 45-year-old woman.
That was the most
Who looked 45.
Yeah, she looked 45.
She looked like that wasn't, no offense, old lady. This 42-year-old is saying. That was no. And why the kid was barely 16.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
he
don't
was
even know if he
16 years
actually
old.
had his driver's license. He was driving, but I don't know if he had his license. But I'm like, why are you picking up your sister at work?
Yeah. That
Is
just
that
goes, yeah.
your car?
Yeah.
Family car? Her car?
She all of a sudden let him drive it. And then it shows you the double standard even then, or more so
Oh,
then.
yeah.
Could you imagine if you were in the theater in 1985 and Buddy was a 16-year-old sister got on the back of a bike of like a 45-year-old man? You'd be like, what the fuck?
No, that would have been super, like, everybody would have been like, ew, so gross.
Yeah, you'd be outraged. But an underage boy being sexually molested by a 45-year-old woman is
Totally
funny.
okay.
I mean, I get it. It is funny. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Like, don't get me wrong, it's definitely a buddy thing. Like, it follows through with the character.
Yes.
So you're like, okay, I get why the character's doing it. It's still gross. We can still think it's gross, but still think it's very in character.
Yeah, and that's the movie.
Yep.
So
That's it.
what was your score of this movie?
I think I'm gonna surprise you, my friends.
Oh, you're gonna say like 8.
No. I'm okay. I'm gonna say 4.8. Now here's why. It's heavy on the nostalgia for me. So the clothing, the outfits, the 80s-ness of it gave me the warm and fuzzies. So that's why it was leaning towards 5. However, this movie is awful. It is terrible. It had a plot, and then
Yep.
it lost the plot, literally,
Yeah.
and it just kept going, and I'm like, "But did the no, guys, you went off course, and you just kept going, and you're like, "We're gonna end up somewhere, it's fine."
Yeah,
So,
literally
yeah.
just start a new plot.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just started a whole new thing. Well, now I'm gonna pivot, and now I'm gonna write a new article and still submit it here, but I'm gonna continue to pretend to be a boy.
So
Who I
you're
don't know how they
almost
registered for school.
for a week.
Yeah,
Or 2
right?
weeks, whatever it was, yeah.
2 weeks, I'm gonna register to a new high school.
And not to mention the lates and absences at the other school.
I'm like, "Come on, guys. This don't make no sense." So, yeah, 4.8 because it was an
4.8.
awful movie, but it did have a lot of nostalgia and a
Yeah.
lot of, like, warm fuzzies for me. What about you?
Yeah, mine, I wrote, "Just One of the Guys" is a pretty by the numbers 80s comedy with no real outstanding parts to it. I recognized and loved a lot of the actors like Joyce Heiser, Billy Jane. I think he had a different name at this time. William Zabka, Sherilyn Fenn, Clayton Rauner, Tony Hudson, Deborah Goodrich, even Ari Gross and I can't remember the lizard dude.
Stuart Charno.
Yes. They had all of them seem to have really steady careers. A couple of them more
Yeah.
than some, but the dialogue or the script was pretty subpar. The directing took it from funny high school movie to slapstick to ridiculousness, and none of it in a very good way. The nostalgia helped, kind of like what you said. The nostalgia really helped. I could see why I
Mhm.
liked it back then. Joyce Heiser's boobies.
They were nice boobies.
They were nice. This falls right into where like Weekend at Bernie's, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, Mannequin. I might watch this again because of that nostalgia. I didn't hate watching it, but it wasn't even like meh. I can see why I liked it back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I give it a 4.
This movie makes me wanna see She's the Man to see this trope being done properly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's been years since I've watched it, but I'm like, I remember it doing better than this because this is not, but I'm like, but the '80s." Also, we should also watch Girls Just Wanna Have Fun.
yeah, yeah. That was funny too. No, this movie was. I'll always look back on this movie fondly, even though I
Mhm.
gave it a 4, because I liked it when I was a kid. But when looking at it, like I had to compare it to the comedies we've watched doing this. Just Friends, Role Models, American Pie 2. Those actually made me laugh out loud. This movie did not.
This movie just made me smile a couple times.
A couple times, maybe 1 or
A
2
little chuckle.
chuckle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of it was smirks and
Yeah.
yeah. There has to be a great because we're not having comedy wise, we're not having any luck in the 80s, even the 90s.
Honestly, it's really starting to hurt my feelings.
Yeah, like they gotta be out there somewhere in the
They
80s or
have
90s.
to
We'll
be.
find them, but we have not found them
We will wade through all the duds to get to the funny '80s movies.
because we went Encino Man,
Yeah.
Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, Mannequin, Weekend at Bernie's, which even though I scored very low, they still have a place in my heart for nostalgia
Oh,
wise.
of course.
But yeah, they're not where Role Models and American Pie 2, I
I
laughed
laughed.
out loud to those. So
Yeah.
yeah, we gotta
We
find
gotta
better
we gotta f
comedies.
we gotta find the laughing comedies from the '80s, not just the, "Oh, this is memories."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like these movies, the mannequins and just one of the guys are like going through photo albums where
Yes.
you smile at something you remember and
You're like,
yeah,
"Oh, that's great," but you
yeah,
don't necessarily wanna experience that again,
yeah,
whereas there are eventually some, like, home videos where you're like, "We should go there again," or, "We should
yeah.
do that again."
Or you're laughing your ass off because
Yeah.
your dad caught your brother getting a ball to the nuts. And you're laughing out loud. Now that's funny.
That is funny. I don't uh, nut shots are always hilarious to
Yeah, they're
me,
always
no
great.
matter
Yeah.
what the movie or what
Uh,
circumstance.
why I liked it then. It was funny to me as a kid. It was believable that all of that life-altering things could happen in just over a week. It
Mhm.
had boobies. Buddy the brother was funny, especially to me as a kid. Yeah, that's why I would have liked it then. Why would you have liked it then?
I was raised on soap operas. So over the top stories and people doing exceptionally dramatic things that didn't need to be done was commonplace for me. I expected that.
Yeah, so this is like
Also,
that with humor.
when I was younger, like my sister and my brother are both much older than me. So my sister's like 10 years older than me, my brother's 8 years older than me. So when I was watching this, my siblings were teens and I wanted to be one of the cool kids, and this movie was filled with cool kids wearing all the cute outfits, all the great stuff. So that was why I think I just wanted to feel more connected to, like, teenage coolness, and there was a lot of that in this. Thank you, Terry Griffith, because some of the ensembles, I was like, "Girl, that's cute." I could pull that off now.
Um,
Yeah.
if you liked it then, me personally, I would tell you to stream it. This is not worth a rental unless you find it on Apple for 99 cents. Like, and do not buy it.
No, don't buy it
There are people who would argue this, but those people probably own Weekend at Bernie's and Mannequin and
and watch them every week.
yeah. What about you? If for people that liked it then?
If you can stream it for free, stream it.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't pay money for it unless it is, like you said, like a 99 cents or even a $2 rental.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. Or if it's a $2 purchase, by all means, purchase. Then every
Yeah.
time a new
Yeah.
friend comes over, you can scroll through it and be like, see that movie? That movie was shit. Want to watch it? You can bond. Um, yeah, I wouldn't. This is not a classic.
No.
This is not something you can watch over and over and over again and it brings you joy every single time.
No.
It's a little disappointing.
If you've never seen it, if you're into 80s teen comedies, like you've seen 16 Candles, Revenge of the Nerds, Breakfast Club, and you want more, this is not better. This is not as good
Mm,
as far as I can remember, but you might get a kick out of it. Like, again, stream it, don't rent it. Again,
yeah.
unless it's like 99 cents. But if you've never seen it, I'd definitely stream it.
Yeah, I wouldn't don't pay money. Like don't invest in this.
No.
That's the better term for it. Don't invest. But I mean, if you've got a couple hours and, it's on a streaming service you already have, sure. Why not? Do it while you're, folding your laundry or whatever. But this is not a hunker down, pay attention. You're going to laugh movie.
No. Could it be rebooted today?
Yes.
I think they've already done it, like between like white chicks, the hot chick, she's the man, sorority boys, which I remember being hilarious.
I don't think I've
Um,
seen Sorority Boys.
that guy who played Lex Luthor in the
Michael
Smallville
Rosenbaum.
show. Yeah.
I love him in general. So maybe I'll watch it. But yeah, no, she's the man.
Yeah.
Almost almost identical. Where sexism is actually the topic of conversation through the entire movie, it's fine. But yeah, no, they've done this kind of the spirit of this movie over and over and over again. It is definitely able I think you could definitely remake this specifically where it's about a teenage girl who's wanting to be a journalist and is being discouraged by her teachers and having the conversations be more tinged with sexism.
Hmm.
So it makes sense that she goes to another school or she becomes the transfer student at her school, whatever, as a boy or whatever. So I think you can definitely do it, keeping with the journalism, sexism rant.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that was disappointing.
So disappointing. I had high hopes for this one.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for listening to I Remember Liking That Movie podcast. Just one of the guys. Yeah. Join us next week for hopefully a better movie.
Congratulations. You just had one of your childhood movie memories vindicated. Or they just eviscerated it. I don't know. This is a generic one-size-fits-all type of ending to the podcast. So thank you for listening, and please join Anna and Jimmy next time for another episode of the I Remember Liking That Movie podcast. If you dare to go back and watch that movie you remember liking,